Joining me on the line is none other than Merle Temple. He is the author of the Michael Parker trilogy, A Ghostly Shade of Pale, A Rented World, and The Redeemed, A Leap of Faith, a prequel to the trilogy, Deputy Once Upon a Time in Mississippi. Merle, it's a pleasure to finally talk with you. I follow you quite a bit on social media.
It's great to talk with you this morning.
Well, you have quite a life experience for sure when it comes to your books. You've put in a lot of your experiences in these books. People that are not familiar with you, what are one of the big things that they want to know about Merle Temple?
Well, I'm retired, and much to my surprise, I began to write novels, and an even greater surprise, people liked them. And the reviews have been good, and they're all written as fiction, but they're drawn from my life experiences, and I've lived 3 or 4 lives in one. Good, bad, and tragic, but all great fodder for a novelist in his old age, and particularly for a born-again Christian novelist to use those stories to talk about his journey to the peace and purpose of Jesus Christ.
I did want to touch upon this since we are a classic country station. We actually play real country music, by the way. I understand that you've had some contact with a couple of country artists. Tell me a little bit about some of that contact.
Oh, well, I love music. I use music in my novels as backdrop and flavor to the times. And as you know, and your listeners do, I'm sure that if you hear an old song, it'll take you right back to where you were in those days, who you were in love with, who broke your heart. It's a powerful tool for an author to use. And so I've seen just so many people in concert in my life, and just had interesting experiences. When I was working security with the Secret Service for Ronald Reagan's visit to the Neshoba County Fair in Mississippi, Ernest Tubb was there. Saw him, and ran into Lee Greenwood at a foreign embassy of all places, and chatted with him and his wife, and was at the Johnny Cash concert in Memphis in 1970. When June and Mother Maybelle and all the Carters were there, and Carl Perkins and the Statlers and Tommy Cash, and Johnny introduced Tex Ritter, the famous Western serial star, and he was running for governor then of Tennessee, and so just crossed paths with so many singers, entertainers, and politicians also.
It's interesting. I had an interview years ago with John Ritter's wife, and talking about the life of John Ritter and his father, Tex Ritter, and how their complication that they had with their heart is something that actually could be easily remedied today. So I find that interesting that you bumped into Tex Ritter.
Yeah, it is. It's you see a lot of people in life who leave us way too soon, and you find out that really sometimes it was something now that's just routinely cured. But my books cover the days from my time when I left Ole Miss and went into the first drug wars as an agent in the Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics. Almost killed many times, held hostage, undercover contract killers lured me out to kill me. My men and I were later ambushed by a sniper in a terrible gun battle. And the worst of it all, though, was probably my battle with politicians there, and later in the corporate world and the political world there in Georgia, and some well-known battles that I was involved in there that some people might remember my name. And I encountered what I call the unholy trinity of politics, crime, and business, and I found out that the corporate and political criminals were far more dangerous than the mobsters who tried to kill me in the drug war days.
Wow, that's pretty wild. Deputy Once Upon a Time in Mississippi, this is a prequel to the trilogy here. This is coming out soon. How does this book separate from the other books? How does it separate itself apart, and how is it different than the other books?
Well, of course, it is a prequel, and it's the first. It goes It starts with Michael Parker, the character based on me, who goes through all the novels. And it begins with him when he was just a deputy intern out of Ole Miss, required an intern with some law enforcement agency. He works for the Lee County Sheriff's Department, and you see then how he begins to, you understand some things you read in A Ghostly Shade of Pale, the first book. They begin to make more sense. You see how he was bent and a little more about him. And the book is really interesting. It's, I think in some ways, it could be the best of all the books. And very interesting music-wise, too, because Elvis came down on December 29th, 1970. He came down from Memphis to get a badge from the sheriff that I worked for. And I've got a picture on, that'll be on the back cover of the novel of the real sheriff that I worked for, pinning the badge on Elvis. And we tell a lot of insider stuff about what happened that day and blend it all into the novel. And I'm a big Elvis fan, so that I think that'll be interesting, too, for readers who also were the Elvis fans.
Very, very cool. And I understand that the novels have been captured with the attention of the long-running TV show Criminal Minds. How did you guys intersect? How did they find out about you?
Well, that was interesting. So my wife and I, made a trip out to Hollywood because Jim Clementi there, the writer-producer who recently did the special on John Benet Ramsey, Jim read the manuscript, and lo and behold, he called and said, "I want to represent you. Come to Hollywood." And so we loaded up, went out to Hollywood, and stayed out there for 2 or 3 weeks, and signed books for the cast of Criminal Minds and Major Crimes, and did radio and TV interviews. And eventually I had dinner and sang songs with Morgan Freeman in a blues club. And my second book has Sicilian in it, and John Martino, who played Paulie in the original Godfather movie, translated the Sicilian for me. And so it's just really been quite a journey, and they're pitching Ghostly Shade of Pale for a TV series. Movies take a very long time, about 10 years, if you're lucky. And so we're going for a TV series, and I think that Deputy will actually enhance that, because they can now be packaged together, book 1 and book 2, and they should have enough material in there for maybe 2 or 3 seasons.
Very, very interesting. Before I let you go here, Merle, tell us how people can find out more about you and your novels.
Well, let's go to www.merletemple.com, MERLETEMPLE.com, and you can get signed books there. Of course, you can get them at Amazon and other places too, but if you want to get some signed books to keep, and most people keep these books and share them with loved ones and family members, and a lot of high schools and middle school English teachers are using these books in their classes. Three schools this week over here in Mississippi, and one college has made it required reading. And so these are not books you just read and say, well, I've read that plot 1,000 times before, I know what's going to happen, because they're based on actual events, and they keep you guessing. And a lot of people tell me that they're keepers. They're on their bookshelf.
Merle Temple, the author of the Michael Parker trilogy, A Ghostly Shade of Pale, A Rented World, and The Redeemed, Leap of Faith, prequel to the trilogy Deputy, Once Upon a Time in Mississippi. Don't forget to check out his website, too, merletemple.com. Merle, we appreciate you stopping by here in Central Georgia this morning.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I hope you and all your listeners have a very Merry Christmas.